Great to be back here again, and wonderful to have good friend Pat Williams here today with us. How are you, Pat?
I'm doing very well, Sarah. Thanks. And a Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners.
Happy New Year as well. I'm so very grateful that our paths have crossed over the many years, and you have a new book that has been published. It's a fantastic book. Can you share a little bit about it?
Well, Sarah, it's called simply Humility.
Mm-hmm.
And people have asked, why a book about humility? And I come back and say that humility is vital to being a truly successful person.
Mm-hmm.
You can have all the success, all the money, all the fame, all the accomplishments, but if you do it with a cocky, arrogant, almost hateful spirit, where you're just full of yourself, and well, I'm going to argue you're not a success, a true success. So humility is a big deal, and the good news is, Sarah, it can be taught. It's a character quality that, as parents and grandparents, coaches, teachers, and so forth, we need to be teaching this character quality to our young people.
Yes, very much so. It is very true, and the true level of success is just the way you handle yourself and being of service and being humble. And you have this wonderful book that has come out, and you've published over 100 books, and you are so very accomplished, Pat, and very quiet and humble yourself about your life and the things that you've accomplished. And you've always taken the time out to just be available and take time out for folks like myself on advice and thoughts on day-to-day life as well. So I'm truly grateful to have been able to have you in my life, and certainly you are very involved in giving back, being of service. You're NBA Hall of Famer, co-founder of the Orlando Magic. These are big things which you really don't talk too much about, and certainly the stories that you have captured in this book are phenomenal and really a wonderful read, I have to say.
Well, Sarah, I have been very fortunate over my many years in sports and beyond to have encountered some men and women who have left a deep imprint on me because of their humble spirit. Mm-hmm. Let me start with Coach John Wooden, the UCLA legend, arguably the greatest coach in the history of sports in our country. He let me into his life. I've written 3 books about him. Mm-hmm. He died at 99 some years ago, but I guess the last decade of his life, I got to spend time with him. You would never know that he was a coaching legend. He never bragged. He never made you feel inferior. He always made you feel good about yourself because he was interested in you. That left a huge imprint on me. Billy Packer once said, John Wooden is the most humble, famous person I've ever met. That's a good description. Mm-hmm. And then Dr. Billy Graham comes to mind, Sarah. I've been fortunate to, over the years, I spoke twice at 2 of his different crusades, one in Chicago, one in Syracuse. And whenever you were around Dr. Graham, a legend, a living legend. Mm-hmm. But again, it was never about him. It was always about service to God and his guests, the people that he was with. It was you always felt you were more important than he was. Lamar Hunt, the longtime owner, NFL owner, well, he was one of America's wealthiest men, prominent, but you'd never know it. He was just a humble giant. And every time I was with him, it was never about Lamar. It was always about you. Well, that leaves an imprint on you, Sarah. So I'm just saying that humility is a characteristic that really, really changes people when you're around humble people.
It sure does, and I think that it's such a great book. You've written some amazing books, and I have to say that a person who has accomplished great things, such as yourself as well, and all the great things that you've done, you're so very involved in multiple things, charities. You were kind enough to work with us on a book that was published about 2 years ago, The Gift Is You. All proceeds go to St. Jude's Cancer Research. And certainly you have such a busy schedule and you are always involved and engaged. And the book speaks volumes, as I read it, of just yourself as well, because the true character of a person is really based on what is happening that day and that level of success and how they are able to be of service, to give back, to be engaged and involved with everyday folks out there, because that's where we come from. We come from humble beginnings, and we all are in a position to make major changes in everyone's life. And I've always felt that every person is a public figure. It's just the impact that one person can make is even a smile or a gesture, your time, volunteering, your services, very important factors.
Well, Sarah, that reminds me of a book I wrote a couple of years ago called The Difference You Make.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about our influence, the influence that all of us have, even though we may not feel that we're influential people. Mm-hmm. But we are. If we're parents, if we're grandparents, teachers, coaches, I mean, we all have influence with other people. And when you combine the awareness of influence and mesh that together with a humble spirit, well, as far as I'm concerned, you're then a giant. Mm-hmm. You're a giant. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish here with this new book.
So, Pat, with the book in itself, it can be purchased. Can you just mention where for folks to be able to buy this wonderful book, Humility?
There, it's in bookstores,
mm-hmm.
Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com
mm-hmm.
are also a wonderful way to order books. And it's simply called Humility. That's the title.
Mm-hmm.
And the author... What's the author's name, Sarah?
Pat Williams?
Yeah, we're talking about humility. I'll let you tell me who the author is.
Well, I think, Pat, let me ask you a question. Over the last 2 years of the work that you've done with books, you've written, is this 100 books, 101?
This is 103.
103.
Yeah.
Is there another one in the making?
Yes, 104 will be out Feb 1.
Really?
It's called The Success Intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And the meat of the book is this: when your greatest talent intersects with your greatest passion, well, then you have found your sweet spot in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you want to hang. That's where you want to be educated. That's where you want your paychecks to come every 2 weeks. Right in that sweet spot. When your greatest talent intersects with your greatest passion, that's where you want to be living. So that book will be out, very soon now, very soon. And we're excited about that one as well.
And so Humility, great book, and I was an easy read, and it was very, very useful and helpful, and certainly Pat Williams and James Denny, both of you authors of the book, and can be purchased at Amazon. And certainly, Pat, I have to thank you for many times reaching out to you, advice and giving your time to me, and certainly direction and guidance. It is something that you can't measure. And for being so kind always to come on air, as I'm sure you've been asked by many. And I enjoyed the book thoroughly, Humility. It's a great read. I certainly recommend it highly. Any last words, Pat, to share in the new year for folks with Salem?
Well, I think, Sarah, it's important on the first of the year
mm-hmm.
To have a word of the year. I think everybody, should be thinking, what is my word of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it could be humility. Listen, it could be leadership. It could be this, that, anything. Your word of the year. So here's my word of the year, Sarah.
Okay.
Read.
Read. Yes.
Read for your life.
Very good word. Very good.
Set aside time every day to be engrossed in books. And the good news is you pick the books, folks. They're not assigned. Never pick up a book that you're not interested in. And if you'll read an hour a day, at the end of 1 week, you will have finished a book.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be War and Peace, but you will have finished a book.
Right. And
keep it up for all of 2017. Well, you will have read 52 books that you are interested in.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And that's a big deal, Sarah. That's a big deal.
It is. I mean, knowledge is power. Reading, I would say, for myself, gratitude to you and to everyone in the new year as well as the past years because of the time that you've given me and for your guidance and direction, Pat. I love the book. Thank you for writing it. And there are many books to choose from if you're going to start your path towards reading with Pat Williams. And Humility is one of them. It's top on the list, and it can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And I'm suspecting you can do the e-read. You can purchase it online and read it through Kindle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. All sorts of ways to read these days. And it
True.
makes all the difference in the world.
Very true.
It's like mental calisthenics when you're reading. It's calisthenics for your brain.
It is. And
that's what reading does.
And Pat, with that, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be on air with us here on the MOSIN program. If folks have any questions, you can always call us here at 1-800-662-9550. Any last words, Pat?
Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. For a big, wonderful 2017, and may God richly bless all of you. Thanks for calling, Sarah. It's wonderful to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Pat. Happy New Year. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye.